In this lesson, we're going to be talking about SQL injection. Now, SQL injection has a different goal altogether, or potentially a different goal altogether, than cross-site scripting. Where cross-site scripting is targeted at the browser or the user specifically, SQL injection is targeted at the web application infrastructure and, in particular, the database server. So a SQL injection attack is really targeted at doing something to or with the information that's stored in the database. One attack for SQL injection is if you are using a SQL database to store usernames and passwords, you may be able to do a SQL injection attack that would allow you to log in to a site without actually passing the correct username and password parameters. You could also get data back from the database depending on whether there is a vulnerability to SQL injection in the web application. So theoretically, I can issue queries directly to the web server. So I could issue a SQL query and just see what I end up getting back. In this case, I actually get a useful error back, so it's showing me the select statement that it's using, and it also gives me the user that is being used to access the database. And worse than that, it's actually saying there's no password for that particular user. So the www-data user on the database server has no password. So that's kind of interesting to know. Now, that's just kind of a manual attack, and there's a lot of different ways of doing SQL injection attacks. And I can actually use Burp Suite to do those types of attacks for me. So I'm going to go back to my target, and I'm going to find Union 1. So I'm going to send this to the intruder. And I'm going to go back to the intruder tab, and I've got my attack target, and then I've got my positions here. And you can see it's got some things highlighted. Those are different payload fields. And I'm actually going to select a sniper attack, and I'm going to, for payload set 1, I'm going to add in a SQL injection attack. And you can see these are all of the different ways of potentially doing SQL injections. I'm going to change my payload set. I've only got one payload set, so that works fine. And I don't really have any options that I want to play with, so I'm going to start my attack here. Now, I'm running a SQL injection attack, and you can see I'm getting 200 OK messages back, but I don't really know what those look like. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab one and pop it open and see what I get. So this is the request, and let me take a look at the response and see what I get. And this is the raw HTTP. And in this case, I get the error again. So we can take a look for some of these others, and I'm going to look at the response. And again, I'm getting the errors from these SQL injection attempts. So definitely there are some problems with the SQL here, and it's generating a lot of errors which could be used for other types of attacks. But again, these are the different types of payloads that Burp Suite has that they would run SQL injection attacks with. And again, the goal of an SQL injection is to get the database to do something that it wouldn't normally do, whether that's to provide you access or to provide a bunch of information back. And as you can see here, there's a lot of different potential ways of performing a SQL injection attack. So it's not as simple as, the place that I started with, just close a quote and provide some SQL on the back end of that and hope that that works. So there's a lot of knowledge of SQL that's involved in being able to perform SQL injection attacks and get them to actually do what you want them to do. But that's SQL injection attacks.